This is Carl with your Kansas livestock update for Friday, February the 7th. Boy, from the futures trade we had this week, we really didn't have a lot of fresh news to work with in livestock. We had bits and pieces, but not a lot. One big thing we had that kind of did catch my attention a little bit, and this is a holdover from last week's quarterly livestock, semi-annual livestock update, sorry, but it was a number from there, and it was the number of cows, beef cows in the United States down 1%, dairy cows up 2%. A little bit of a bump in the dairy herd. And this was, a while ago, a concern that I had voiced about, with the selective sex breeding, we could see more dairy animals bred, crossbred between dairy and beef. With these numbers, now granted, it's, we've been building here, but to see a gradual increase in the number of dairy cows tells me that we're not going to see as many beef cows moving forward either, if that makes sense. We're starting to build our dairy herd back a little bit. That's also why, cross note, I'm a little bit friendly feed grain demand right now. Dairy cows consume about 120 to 130 pounds of feed per day on a wet basis. A dairy cow is only about 30 pounds, so you can jot that down if you want. One thing that was really interesting about the U.S. cattle inventory report on a whole, 86.7 million head of cattle in the United States, down 1%. Here's what makes me question that a little bit, like it does a lot of USDA data. The number of respondents to the cattle survey was only 65%. We've seen that in the ag, the commodities, the grain questionnaire is only 40 to 50% response. So it does throw a whole big question mark over all the data. That's my opinion. Just a side note. Moving on, the other shakeup we had all week was the tariff talk in livestock. We're going to have this, pork back and forth. Are we going to? Are we not going to? Our weekly export sales were yearly highs. Granted, we're 4 weeks into it, but it was the volume, huge volume. Sold 25 plus million metric tons of beef, top 50 million metric tons of pork. Big sales on the week, and mostly to South Korea, Japan, and that was on the beef. On the pork, it's to Mexico. So we did see big trade on the wheat. We did get the news story that the United States would be lifting the ban on Mexican livestock imports shortly. No confirmed time of when that'll come in, but more than likely it'll be in the relatively near future here. We did see a big drop in feeder cattle values this week through the auctions coming in, depending upon where you were. Southern sales, it looks like they were about 2 to 4 lower on the feeders this week. Up in the north, 10 to 12 lower. The cash market kind of giving up there a little bit. Just, the market is very, very top heavy. And, cash, even though, you want to get these big values, we're seeing that, especially the feeders, guys just said, I can't, it doesn't pencil out for me anymore. Corn has backed off a little bit. That helps, but it's just saying this doesn't pencil out. I can't afford to replace the ones I have. We are starting to see the feedlots get a little more current. I hope that brings the weights down. But boy, the weekly carcass weight came in at 927 pounds, I believe. Up 42 pounds from last, 48 pounds from last year, excuse me, which doesn't really help. But we're that much heavier. And what I'm looking at is the USDA and their annual beef production forecast has the carcass weight at 833 pounds. If we're coming in 100 pounds heavier than that right now, multiply that by 600,000 head a week, give or take, on the cattle slaughter, and that tells you how much extra beef we could be producing than what the USDA is currently projecting. It's a chunk, okay? I think that throws off our beef market as we move forward, and I think that's why we're starting to see the market correct and soften here a little bit. a lot of managed money pulled out of the livestock this week, and rightfully so. I mean, we are a little bit overvalued, and a mild correction better than a sharp one, obviously. If you wanted to ask me where cattle would go from here, if we see, a $10 to $15 correction from here, would not surprise me too much. I don't think we pulled the rug out from underneath, but we're just struggling to find stuff to make additional gains from where we're at. Hogs, depends a lot on what happens with China and what we do with our tariff talk. Also with Mexico and Canada. In 2024, Mexico is a third of our pork exports. Canada was 8%. If we start putting tariffs on, we could see a little bit questionable pork demand. That's why hogs have already corrected, and that's why they're not selling off quite as hard as cattle have here on this break. Those are some of your top livestock comments for the week.